3 Devgru operators are already dead on a snow-covered Afghan peak before the rescue birds even land. The men sent to pull survivors out walk straight into a kill zone. A wounded fighter the team left for dead is alone on that summit, still pulling triggers. Then the Taliban counterattack. Daylight makes every helicopter a coffin. What you are about to witness across 5 missions is combat footage so raw, it rewrote the rules of how Devgru operates in mountain terrain. This is the top 5 most intense Devgru missions ever caught on combat footage. Summer 2009, Kunar Province, Afghanistan. 8 Taliban fighters break from a tree line at 8,000 feet and run. This is the Kunar Ambush Run, the most physically brutal Devgru pursuit ever captured on aerial footage. The MH-60 ramp drops on a rocky slope before the rotors fully settle. Operator Phil is already on the radio calling squirters, enemy personnel fleeing the objective. The team has seconds before those 8 fighters vanish into the mountain. What follows is a 500-meter uphill sprint in full kit. Body armor, rifles, ammunition, nods. The altitude alone turns every breath into a fight, lungs burning, quads shredding, and not a single shot fired yet. That is the brutality no footage can fully capture, the physical cost paid before the killing even starts. But one of those 8 fighters is carrying a PKM machine gun, and he is about to make his stand. The first man to make a stand is the PKM gunner. He plants himself on a rock outcropping, swings the barrel toward the approaching operators, and opens up. At 150 yards, on a slope that already stole half the team's oxygen, that machine gun is the most dangerous thing on the mountain. One operator goes to a knee, hands fighting the tremor from the sprint. He puts his laser on the fighter's center mass and holds it through the shake. He fires. The PKM goes silent. In the opening seconds of first contact, the Taliban's biggest gun is down. The aerial feed captures the fighter dropping across the rock, the weapon tumbling after him. That is the moment the pursuit shifts from chase to slaughter. But one surviving fighter just grabs something off a dead man, and what he does next will blow out an operator's hearing completely. The PKM is down. The pursuit tears forward. Phil sees a dead fighter splayed across the rocks, an RPG tube still strapped to his back. He doesn't hesitate. He rips it free, checks the round, and shoulders it in one motion. The fleeing group, 4 runners on the drone feed, is 30 meters upslope, scrambling over loose shale. Phil fires. The backblast detonates like a concussion grenade. The warhead impacts the rock face directly in the runner's path. Shrapnel tears sideways through the group. 2 fighters fold instantly, a third staggers and drops to one knee. Phil can't hear the screams. The backblast has wiped out his hearing for the rest of the night. Hand signals and drone narration from here. That is what desperation looks like when it works. 3, down by their own weapon. But the aerial feed just picked up movement in the tall grass ahead, and the dog handler is already unclipping the lead. The dog's name isn't spoken on the radio. The handler releases the lead, and the Belgian Malinois disappears into the grass like a ghost. Waist-deep vegetation. 0 visibility under NODs. The animal is tracking something 50 feet out. Then, the scream. High, sharp, unmistakable. The dog has locked onto a fighter who stayed flat in the ditch while his team ran. Patient, quiet, gone completely still. The Malinois found him anyway. Phil signals left. 2 operators peel wide. A grenade arcs into the ditch. Detonation tears the grass sideways. Team stacks and clears under NODs. No lights, no noise, just green tinted shapes moving fast. The fighter is confirmed dead on the bank. 8 seconds flat. But the ditch runs long. And somewhere in the dark ahead, a boot is about to land on something that shifts. The ditch is clear. 8 bodies confirmed across the ridge. But the team isn't moving yet. Staff operator Bravo pushes into the grass on the far flank. His left boot comes down on something solid. Then it exhales. He drops his muzzle instantly. 2 rounds, double tap, center mass. The shape convulses once and goes still. A wounded Taliban fighter had dragged himself 40 meters from the ditch, gone flat, and was bleeding out, waiting for the team to walk past. He almost made it. Phil calls the final count over comms. 8 fighters entered this mountain. 8 confirmed dead. That is the Kunar Ambush Run. 8 for 8, closed in darkness at 8,000 feet. But confirming a body count on a ridge is one thing. Walking into a walled compound where 11 heat signatures are already waiting with no margin for error, that is something else entirely. Korengal Valley, 2007. Objective Bull Run. The compound sits behind 12-foot mud walls, dead quiet, no visible movement. But 20,000 feet above, a Predator drone is painting the walls in infrared, and the Devgru troop leader watching that feed can count 11 separate heat signatures moving inside. 11 fighters. No smaller shapes, no thermal signatures low enough to be children. Troop leader confirms it over the net. 0 civilian indicators. The grid is clean. That confirmation isn't a formality, it's the hard metric that authorizes everything that follows. 11 armed men in a fortified compound, positively identified, nowhere to run. The breach order goes out. Below, the breaches are already stacking on the gate, and 4 minutes from now, all 11 of those heat signatures will be gone. The gate blows. Explosive breach. Dust cloud. Alpha element is already moving before the debris settles. 2 columns, rifles up, pushing through the gap at a controlled sprint. Building 1 takes 11 seconds to enter. The first room clears in 4. Fighters scramble for weapons. They don't reach them. Alpha works room to room with mechanical violence, suppressed rifles cycling in tight bursts, flashbangs compressing time into strobed white noise. Bravo hits, Building 2 simultaneously. 2 fighters attempt to escape through a rear window. They don't make it past the sill. 4 minutes, 2 buildings, 11 heat signatures, all 11 gone. That is the speed and violence standard defining Objective Bull Run. But the compound's real value isn't what the team killed inside. It's what they found after the shooting stopped. The compound goes quiet. Gunsmoke hangs in the air. The shooting took 4 minutes. What comes next takes longer and matters more. The Devgru sensitive site exploitation team moves through both buildings methodically. Laptops pulled from a false floor beneath a prayer rug. A ledger, handwritten, coded, stuffed behind loose mud brick in the second room. 2 external hard drives taped inside a cooking pot. Standard SSE protocol, but nothing on these devices is standard. The ledger cross-references cell numbers, material suppliers, and burial sites to IED networks across Kunar province. The hard drives confirm the target wasn't a mid-level commander, he was the financial node connecting 3 separate bomb-making cells. The raid CENTCOM logged as routine just became something else entirely. That intelligence reversal changes the campaign. But the team still has to get out, and the mountain isn't finished with them yet. The MH-60 drops toward the landing zone at 40 feet above the ridgeline. The team is 30 seconds from wheels down. Then the RPG launches from the eastern wall. The round screams past the nose close enough that the tracer arc burns across the cockpit glass in the thermal feed. The pilot pitches hard, slamming the bird toward the deck faster than any controlled approach. The Devgru element is already moving before the skids touch. Small arms open up from 2 directions. The team returns fire on the move, pushing to the ramp in under 8 seconds. The MH-60 clears the valley with everyone aboard. The mountain gave them 11 dead fighters, 2 drives, a ledger, and a near miss that almost ended it before the intel reached anyone. But what happened when that intel hit CENTCOM's desk? That's where this mission gets complicated. The drives and the ledger landed at CENTCOM. The after-action review came back, raid classified inconclusive. 11 fighters dead, an MH-60 nearly blown out of the sky, and the institution called it a wash. It didn't last 72 hours. Analysts working the hard drives pulled active command nodes, names, locations, movement patterns. CENTCOM authorized follow-on strikes. Within 3 days, 2 senior Kunar network commanders were dead, their positions fixed entirely by intel recovered inside that compound. The same raid, CENTCOM called inconclusive, dismantled the network's upper tier in under a week. That is Objective Bull Run. 4 minutes of violence the institution tried to shelve and 72 hours later couldn't ignore. But if Bull Run showed what Devgru could do to a fortified compound in the dark, Abbottabad showed what they could do when the entire world was watching. May 2nd, 2011. Abbottabad, Pakistan. The first MH-60 Black Hawk crosses into Pakistani airspace without a single radar ping. Stealth panels, modified rotors, a machine designed to be invisible. pilot James Raz, Hoyer drops altitude over the compound, and the helicopter stalls. Ground effect from the high compound walls traps the rotor wash. The tail swings, strikes the wall, and the bird hard lands inside the courtyard at an angle. In the White House Situation Room, every face goes pale. The mission nearly died in its first 90 seconds. But the operators are already moving. They breach and clear on foot. The crash irrelevant, the timeline burning. That is Devgru. A crashed helicopter is a speed bump, not a stop sign. The clock is already running. 38 minutes to finish what the crash almost ended. 38 minutes. That is the entire window from first boot on Pakistani soil to last operator lifting off. Inside it, 3 buildings cleared, 5 enemy combatants killed, 11 children secured and moved out of the line of fire. Commander William McRaven's team doesn't slow for the wreckage behind them. They pushed through the guest house, the main building, the annex. Each threshold crossed faster than the last. Each room cleared with the mechanical rhythm of men who have rehearsed this 10,000 times in the dark. The children are accounted for before the exploitation team starts pulling hard drives. 38 minutes, 3 structures, 5 dead. That is Neptune's spear reduced to raw numbers. But the numbers don't tell you what happened on the 3rd floor, because that moment belongs to 1 man and 2 rounds. Bin Laden retreats behind a door on the 3rd floor. The point man, Devgru operator Robert O'Neill, Gold Squadron, SEAL Team 6, moves up the stairs after him without breaking stride. 2 steps into the room, he fires twice. Both rounds connect. Bin Laden drops. The engagement lasts less than 3 seconds. What happens next is methodical and cold. The exploitation team moves in immediately. Biometric collection, fingerprints, facial mapping, DNA sample, completed on-site within minutes of the trigger pull. O'Neill later stated in sworn deposition he knew the moment he looked at the body exactly who it was. 2 rounds, 1 man, confirmed kill, biometrically locked before the building was even fully cleared. That is the 3rd floor kill. But the mission isn't over. Downstairs, operators are already receiving word. Pakistani F-16s have scrambled. The words come down fast through the radio. Pakistani Air Force has scrambled F-116s from Mushaf Air Base. The clock starts the moment those jets lift. 20 minutes. That is the intercept window. 20 minutes before Pakistani fighters reach Abbottabad airspace and the extraction becomes a confrontation neither government wants documented. SEAL Team 6 Commander Vice Admiral William McRaven, monitoring from Jalalabad, already has contingency orders in place, but no contingency changes the physics of jet intercept. The operators load the body bag and whatever intelligence they can carry. Every second on the ground is a second closer to an international incident. They clear the compound and board the surviving Black Hawk. The stealth bird they'd blown apart stays behind, burning. The helicopter crosses back into Afghanistan before Pakistani radar gets a clean lock. 20 minutes! They made it! The operators are out of Pakistani airspace. Bin Laden's body is in the aircraft. The mission is over. Back in Washington, 12 people inside the White House Situation Room watched every second of it. That image became the primary artifact of Neptune's spear. That is the most documented 38 minutes in Devgru history. But the mission that follows it in this ranking didn't take 38 minutes. It took 3 nights, 14 raids, and 1 SEAL dead in the breach. Kandahar Province, 2010. Command has a problem. In 60 days, a single IED network has killed 9 coalition soldiers. Devgru's response is Objective Wolverine, a sustained direct action surge unlike anything previously authorized for a single troop element in 1 deployment window. Commander authorizes 14 consecutive hits, 3 nights, 1 network. Devgru troop leader coordinates the first wave across multiple compounds simultaneously. The moment 1 assault element clears a building, the next bird is already spinning up. That is the hard justification behind Wolverine. 9 dead soldiers in 60 days bought command's signature on 14 raids without a single night off. But authorization is one thing. What the operators find waiting for them on those compounds, that is something else entirely. Raid 12, Night 3. The compound looks identical to the 11 before it. Mud walls, dark windows, one iron gate. The breach charge fires. The gate detonates. The Taliban had pre-rigged the entry point with a daisy chain IED network, command detonated and waiting. The explosion tears through the stack before a single operator clears the threshold. One SEAL is dead before he hits the ground. Two more go down with shrapnel wounds severe enough to pull them from the fight permanently. The troop pushes through anyway. They clear the compound. They find the triggerman. That single KIA, the first and only American killed across the entire Wolverine surge, is what locks this operation into the brutality ranking above everything else. 60 plus enemy deaths across 14 raids is one metric. What that number actually meant, that comes next. 60 plus enemy killed across 14 raids in 72 hours. That number comes from the CENTCOM operational summary, declassified after-action language that strips every qualifier and lands on a hard count. 60 confirmed kills, 14 objectives hit, 1 SEAL dead. But a body count only tells you what the surge cost the enemy, what it actually did to the network still operating in that district. That answer required 47 more days to materialize. 47 days. 0 IED strikes. That is a district-level strike log pulled from coalition reporting covering the same grid squares that had bled 9 soldiers dead in the 60 days before Objective Wolverine launched. The network had a command node, a financing cell, and bomb makers who knew the ground. In 72 hours, the DEVGRU troop gutted all 3 tiers simultaneously, and the silence that followed was measurable. No triggerman left to emplace. That is the strategic payoff, not the 60 kills. The 47 quiet days those kills bought for every convoy rolling through that district. But you cannot confirm what you cannot see happen in real time. And for 4 of those 14 raids, a Predator was watching everything from above. The Predator feed doesn't lie. 4 of those 14 raids were captured in DoD released drone footage. You watch the post-strike BDA. Body still, compound quiet, and the kill count stops being a spreadsheet number and becomes something you witnessed. That footage corroborates every metric from the surge. 60 confirmed kills. The network's 3 tiers collapsing in real time, visible from 20,000 feet. That is Objective Wolverine, not a raid, a systematic erasure caught on tape. But everything you just watched happened on flat Kandahar ground. What comes next happens on a snow-covered mountain peak at night, and the man at the center of it falls out of the helicopter before the fight even starts. March 4th, 2002. Takurgarh Mountain, Paktia Province. 10,000 feet of frozen rock, darkness, and Al-Qaeda fighters dug into bunkers the AC-130 never spotted before it was waved off. This is Roberts Ridge, the deadliest single engagement of Operation Anaconda, and it starts before anyone fires a shot. MH-47, Razor 03 comes in low over the peak. An RPG detonates close enough to shred the hydraulics. The bird lurches. Navy SEAL Neil Roberts, Mako 30, is thrown from the open ramp. He lands on the peak, alone. Razor 03 limps away. The crew radios his position. Roberts is alive, surrounded by the same Al-Qaeda fighters who just shot down his helicopter. That single fall drives every decision that follows. What happens next on that peak defies every explanation the military had for what a dead man can do. The mountain is quiet. Mako 30 has pulled back. Chapman is down, or so they believe. But the drone is still watching. What it captures next rewrites everything. Chapman is moving. Wounded twice in the torso, alone on a 10,000-foot peak surrounded by Al-Qaeda fighters, MSG John Chapman rises. No backup. He assaults the second bunker himself, closes the distance, engages 2 fighters, drops one in hand-to-hand combat, his bare hands on a mountain in the dark. Then, a single round through the heart. 16 wounds total. He absorbed 16 wounds and still cleared that bunker alone. That is what a dead man can do. The drone footage will sit in classified archives for 14 years before anyone understands what it shows. But the fight on that peak isn't over. 3 more helicopters are still trying to land on it. After Mako 30 retreats and Chapman is left for dead, Command sends Razor 01, a Chinook carrying Captain Nate Self's Ranger. Quick reaction force, directly onto the same peak. Al-Qaeda is still dug in, weapons trained on the landing zone. The ramp drops and machine gun fire tears through the fuselage. 2 Rangers die before their boots touch snow. the helicopter barely clears the ridgeline. The second bird arrives minutes later, same result, direct fire, immediate casualties. The third insertion follows. 3 commanders, 3 decisions, 3 identical outcomes. 7 Americans dead, 12 wounded. The peak never changed. The enemy never moved. That is the cost of a broken communications loop at 10,000 feet. And bleeding out on that frozen summit is Senior Airman Jason Cunningham, and nobody is coming to get him. And now Cunningham is dying. Senior Airman Jason Cunningham came to Takur Ghar to save lives. That was his entire function, para-rescue man, the man who runs toward the wounded while everyone else runs from the fire. When the midday Al-Qaeda counterattack ripped across the summit, Cunningham was already treating casualties in the open, moving between wounded men under direct fire. A burst catches him. Abdominal wound, survivable, if evacuation comes fast. It doesn't come. Command refuses medevac through the daylight hours. Another helicopter on that peak means another helicopter shot down. So Cunningham lies in the snow for 6 hours, bleeding internally while the men he'd been saving try to save him back. The rescuer no one could rescue. That is the human cost of Takur Ghar. But one question still haunts the entire battle, and a drone overhead recorded the answer. For 16 years, John Chapman was listed as killed in action at the start of the fight. The battle moved on without him. His sacrifice existed only in accounts from men who never knew what happened after they withdrew. Then the review board pulled the Predator feed. Analysts watched Chapman rise, wounded, alone, Al-Qaeda closing from 2 directions. They watched him clear the second bunker, fight with his hands when the ammunition ran. 16 wounds, still moving. The drone recorded every second that no human witness survived to describe. In August 2018, President Trump awarded John Chapman the Medal of Honor, 16 years late, delivered by footage no one thought would matter. That is the verdict of Takur Ghar. 7 dead, a mountain held by no one, and one man's final minutes preserved on a drone feed that refused to let history lie. If 5 missions still aren't enough proof, drop a comment. Could DEVGRU have pulled Roberts Ridge off without Chapman holding that bunker alone? Or did the institution's failure to confirm the peak cost Roberts his life before the first boot ever touched that mountain?